Take you back to that Tunisian story we've been bringing you in the news, because Solange is talking about it in the newspapers. 10-year anniversary of the start of the Tunisian revolution, Solange.
Yeah, it has been 10 years to the day that Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire and began the Arab Spring. And for the Tunisian paper Le Temps, the so-called revolution in Tunisia is, quote, an immense waste. It describes a vast bitterness and nostalgia as well among Tunisians as social, economic, and political problems continue to create disillusionment, they say. Now, for Al Arab, the pan-Arabic paper based in London, the blame is on Tunisia's elite. Al Arab says, quote, feverish pursuits of changing governments has the aim to prevent stability, a stability that would otherwise allow for questioning of regional forces and a distribution of development in Tunisia, which would help the people.
Another top news story of the day, we mentioned this in the news as well, the French press, of course, discussing yesterday afternoon's verdict in the Charlie Hebdo trial.
Yeah, and as Le Monde tells us, the trial is considered by many as a historic one. The prison terms were less than, the paper says, than the prosecutors asked for, but they were substantial, not all the same. And above all, the trial marks, Le Monde says, an important ruling for the history books. Now, for Charlie Hebdo, the paper that was attacked in one of these attacks, it was a, quote, indispensable, albeit painful trial, end quote. The magazine says that it is time now to move forward with a new chapter, one where people can come together to fight fanatism, where death or death threats are not the status quo because of your ideas, but a place where in the world we can live together and respect one another.
Nicely thought of. US for this next story. The press there is wondering how and where Donald Trump will turn the page, or what he'll do when he's no longer president.
Yeah, the press is widely discussing Donald Trump's Florida home/private club, Mar-a-Lago. And they expect Trump to move there in January when he is no longer president. But he may not be allowed to. Vanity Fair tells us that not only do his neighbors not want him around, but Trump signed off his right to make Mar-a-Lago his permanent residence in 1993. Now, this was part of a deal at the time where he wanted to develop into a private club. And he said I wouldn't live there full time in exchange for the development rights. So Palm Beach residents have written a formal letter saying he is not legally welcome to stay for too long. As for what Trump will be doing in his retirement, New York Magazine says Trump may be actually taking quite a number of showers. The site tells us, yes, showers as in underwater, showers, yes, in the bathroom. The site tells us that Trump has finally managed to push through a policy dream of his to remove rules that regulate the amount of water that comes out of the shower head.
A vital issue.
Exactly. For Trump has complained before about the fact that there's not enough water coming out of them. And I quote, because my hair, I don't know about you, but it has to be perfect, end quote. So naturally, no mention here of the environmental impact that deregulating shower heads will have, or how much water will be wasted in search of that perfect hair.
I can't believe that's what we're talking about. And the environment and the future of our climate change world is a subject of a study in ProPublica today.
Yeah, the investigative site has joined forces with a number of papers, and they're looking at Russia and the possible positive side for Russia of climate change and warming temperatures. It's making vast areas in the northeast of the country farmable for longer periods, and that in the coming decades, people will start moving north on the whole as their lands become too hot, the downside, they're too hot to farm or to live on, and that places like Russia, Canada, Norway, Iceland, well, these countries that are above the latitude of, say, North America, well, they may prosper, while other nations below that latitude are going potentially to struggle.
Let's bring you some heartening news. We need it after that. Sports news, in fact. The American Baseball League, the major leagues, is righting some wrongs.
Yeah, it's pretty great news. And it is, as the major league says, quote, long overdue. The American organization that sets the rules for baseball, well, they finally decided to make the Negro Leagues a part of the major leagues. Now, the Negro Leagues, they, as they are called, they were groups of segregated African-American baseball teams. Mm-hmm. And they were basically the status quo for African-American players years until Jackie Robinson in 1947 broke the color barrier. Well, now Negro leaves will no longer be considered an aside, a subcategory, or separate. Their statistics will be included in the major league ones. And this is really important because baseball fans are very big on their statistics. So the move will allow 3,400 African-American players and all of their batting records to be integrated into the major league's playbooks and allow the players, these real-life sports heroes, to finally get their deserved due.
Little bit of American culture there, brought to us from Solange. From real-life sports heroes, though, to fictional superheroes, Solange has found an article about the next Batman.
Yeah, a little more American culture right there.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, it's true.
Jean Affleck tells us that there's a screenplay in the works by the writer of 12 Years a Slave for the next Batman movie. Yes, that all-American hero. The next chapter, the next character will don that will don Batman's robes and take on his role for the original Bruce Wayne is allegedly, according to Jean Affleck, killed off. This new Batman will be an African-American character named Tim Fox. He first appeared in DC Comics in 1979, and Fox will be a means for Marvel and DC Comics, the makers of these movies and comics, to renew their franchise a bit, not to mention encourage more diverse faces when it comes to our superheroes.
We've had Black Panther, why not Black Batman?
Exactly, why not?
Perfect, thank you very much. Solange Mougin with the papers here on France 24.